So how is it that having a band can get you a place to stay and even get you a six-figure salary? That is the strange thing that happened to me, and I'm going to tell you all about it. Hi everyone, welcome back. This is a crossover episode, so depending on where you're watching this, this is either the Ministry of Guitar or the CMO on sabbatical. If you haven't heard of either of these channels, but one of them, you can check the other one out. But without further ado, let's get into the story which straddles both of these worlds. So this is the story of my first band. I'm not going to get into the origin story of the band, that's going to be a different video. But this is going to be about how this band that we made in university, in college, had an outsized effect on many things, including the things that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So I had recently made a video on the Ministry of Guitar called 5 Things Guitarists Don't Like to Admit. And one of those things was about the world doesn't owe you a living doing your passion like playing guitar, right? You have to often do real jobs to earn money, to earn a living. And I was thinking about working musicians and how I had never ever been one. I'd always kind of done music, guitar for passion. And then it struck me, one of those things that you knew, but you didn't really know because it was just at the back of your head, that music had actually helped not only pay the bills, but actually set up a lot of different things, music and guitar. And so this is going to be a 2-part series. This is going to be the first one, and I'm going to have another video out the week later, so you can check both out. This one's going to be about how playing guitar, or rather, very specifically, having my first band helped me get accommodation and help me get a job. So let's talk about the two things. By second year in university, I had started my first band. Not to say I started it, it was started by me and a few other friends. And, initially we were just about all new in our instruments. Our drummer, in fact, learned drums over the summer just to start a band. That's a whole different story. So we were all, new, green, but very, very enthusiastic. Now, we were all international students in Singapore, studying in this university called NTU, Nanyang Technological University. And the thing is, in order to get accommodation on campus, it's not guaranteed. And accommodation on campus, by the way, is much cheaper than trying to rent a room somewhere off campus. Especially if you are kind of cash strapped as we were, because we were coming from India, a much lower cost of living country than Singapore. It's the biggest difference. Like a room on campus costs, say, about $150, and a room outside, even if you rented half a room from somewhere, would be like $300. So you can imagine how much cheaper that is. And at that point in time, 20 years ago, these numbers are the equivalents of the amount of money that our parents may be paying on their own mortgages. So imagine that you're literally doubling the mortgage or doubling the rent that your parents are paying, in real terms, if you don't get a room on campus. And getting these rooms on campus was a function of how much extracurricular activities you did, and not just how much, but the quality of these extracurricular activities. And reality was that it wasn't just that you go and sign up for some random stuff. You had to really put in a lot of work to generate some of these points. Now, a few things happened. We, of course, put our band together in our second year. First year, we did a lot of extracurricular activities. Second year also, we did quite a few. Third year, what happened is that our band was in a pretty decent shape. We had played a lot of stuff. We played in our hall or hostel, as you could call it. And the opportunity came up that our hostel, because there are like, at that time, there were 15 hall of residences in NTU. I think now there are closer to 20. They were looking for an official band who could play all the events for the full year. And this position came with a plump amount of points, which was all that you needed in order to secure accommodation in said hall, and indeed accommodation on campus, indeed subsidized housing for us. And we applied, we showed our chops that we could do everything. We played all sorts of stuff. We played at the Mid-Autumn Festival, which has got nothing to do with rock and roll. It's a Chinese festival, but we played nonetheless. We played in some freshman's camp. We played all sorts of places. And yeah, we got the job. And then suddenly for the next 2 years of university, I didn't have to worry about how was it that I was going to generate necessary a number of points in order to afford to live on campus, to afford to not rack up even more student debt towards, in this entire process. So as it turns out, guitar was helping pay my bills very, very early. And I just didn't know it. In fact, I didn't think of it till literally yesterday when I did the other video. That's very unusual. But yes, it did work. Playing guitar did do something more than just self-fulfillment and hobbyism. The second part of the story is the job. So I had a torrid time in my final year in university. Just one of those phases in life when nothing works out. And we all interviewed for a lot of jobs, and I got none of them. Everybody else, by the time the second semester was rolling around, everybody had gotten a job. I hadn't. I was interviewing for this job, which is not conventional for someone of my background. I'm an engineer. I was interviewing for a marketing job. And this job was very different because they required a lot more of they wanted a lot more of non-technical skills, but more of life skills, management skills, showing the ability to influence, showing the ability to manage. As it turns out, the 3 years that I had my band, I was also the band manager. I'm putting it in air quotes because, of course, all of us had a role to play, but I was the official manager. And yeah, I mean, my friends will disagree with me, but we all had, everybody needed a little bit of shepherding around. There's always one guy who's kind of driving the band. And in this particular band's case, it was indeed me. So in the interview that I was having with this particular company, which is a company that I would end up working with eventually for 14 years, they really needed examples of leadership, of influencing, of of all these sort of concrete life skills. And becoming an interviewer later, as I did for this company, I realized that the bullshit meter that these interviewers have is very, very high. So of course you could make up a lot of experiences if you wanted, but these interviewers, as I would eventually become, know what's going on generally speaking. But I didn't have to bullshit because I had so much experience with the band, putting together shows, getting everybody together, managing expectations, getting stuff done, just making sure we have a quality show on the road, lots of that. The questions were just naturally easy to me. So, all the experiences that I had with the band were a big part of this interview. And believe it or not, after all the spate of failures that I had in all the other interviews, this was the first interview I got through. Now, this job did not pay 6 figures to begin with, but within a couple of years it did. So I'm doing a little bit of cheat there by saying it got me a 6-figure job. Yes, it was a 6-figure job, but after I kind of proved myself, went through a couple of years of, and that was a big jump because this was a job where they hire you at an entry-level salary, but it jumped up dramatically. But yeah, it was all because of the getting through the interview, because of all the experience that I had with the band. So the conclusion of the story is that one is that I just thought it was very interesting because I had talked about how guitar, for most of us, for 99.5% of us, is just a hobby with hardly any consequences in the real world, in our real life. But beyond this positive state of mind that playing guitar or playing an instrument may put you in, it was just very, very interesting for me to note that it had such an outsized influence in not only making my university time a lot more stress-free because I didn't have to worry about paying $300 instead of $150 for the room. And again, I know these numbers sound very small, but trust me, when you're an 18, 19-year-old from India in the early 2000s, that's like, I don't know, what is it now? Those are significant amounts of money, like life-changing amounts of money. So that was one big thing that the band did for me. And of course, getting me the job that I did and eventually the career that I did, it wouldn't have happened without the band. So what's the lesson of the story? Kids, play guitar. It may just do you some good. All right, I hope this was fun. Till next time.